What if a single bullet could change the course of history and the destiny of whole countries? On June 28, 1914, a young patriot killed Austria-Hungary's Archduke Franz Ferdinand in the heart of Sarajevo. He was unaware that this action would incite conflict and draw in countries from across the globe. But was the killing only a trigger, or did decades-long tensions finally explode? To understand the immense effect of World War I, we need to learn more about the politics, history, and individual stories that impacted the conflict. Europe in danger. Early in the 20th century, Europe was a hotbed of anxiety and aspiration. The big empires, Russian, French, British, German, and Austro-Hungarian, were vying for territory, prestige, and power. Nationalism fueled animosity and anger that would eventually erupt as it spread across countries. Imagine academics in a bustling Parisian cafe, sipping wine and debating the advantages of empire. Manufacturers in the neighboring city of Berlin are constructing massive war engines in an attempt to take control of the continent. In the Balkans, little nations like Serbia and Bulgaria were gaining popularity because they wanted to secede from the long-ruling empires. Everything was set up for an international war to start. The assassination. Anarchy's spark. As the Archduke and his wife, Sophie, walked through the streets of Sarajevo on that fateful June day, the air was packed with excitement. In the midst of the crowd's cheers, Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip emerged and fired 2 shots. The demise of the Archduke and his wife upset the delicate balance of power in Europe. In an effort to solidify its hold on power and quell any chance for rebellion, Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia after the killing, but Serbia's answer was considered insufficient. Similar to a lethal game of chess, alliances were established within weeks of Austria-Hungary declaring war on July 28, 1914. Dissecting the network of partnerships. As tensions rose, the intricate web of alliances began to unravel. Russia prepared to protect Serbia, and Germany declared war on Russia. Constrained by its alliance with Russia, France got embroiled in Germany's invasion of Belgium in an attempt to outflank the French forces. Outraged by this breach of Belgian neutrality, Britain entered the war. When the European nations descended into anarchy, the conflict quickly escalated into a global conflict. Soldiers from all walks of life left their homes and families behind and marched into the unknown with a combination of hope and fear. The call to arms was warmly embraced since many people believed the war would be over before Christmas. Combat cruelty on the front lines, but the reality of battle was very different. The horrific stalemate of trench warfare swiftly evolved from what had begun as a movement battle. Imagine men crouching in muddy trenches, their faces white with fear and fatigue, as they braced themselves for the onslaught of German fire. Days turned into weeks, and weeks became months, with little progress and many lives lost. The Battle of the Somme, one of the deadliest wars in history, came to symbolize the futility of war. On July 1, 1916, British troops launched their onslaught, and within hours, almost 20,000 men had been slain. The region became a barren, cratered, and barren wire hellscape. The troops had to fight for their lives every day, not just against the enemy, but also against the weather, disease, and despair. Voices from the front lines. Letters home provide us with insight into the life of soldiers, young men who were once farmers, businessmen, and students. Dear Mother, I wish you could see what I see might be written in a letter by a soldier in the front. This is not the grandeur of battle that they promised us. We're cold, hungry, and scared. I want to return home shortly. These voices remind us that the war was a deeply personal struggle for millions of individuals, regardless of the strategies and battles. The global aspects of the conflict Europe burned, and the fires of the conflict spread over the globe. Colonial soldiers from Africa, India, and the Caribbean were recruited to fight in the expectation of receiving honor and benefits for their service. In the Middle East, the Ottomans supported the Central Powers, while the British attempted to exploit their weaknesses. When British authorities promised freedom in 1916, local soldiers rose against their Ottoman oppressors. Japan took advantage of the opportunity to expand its empire in Asia by seizing German lands in China and the Pacific. Once a European conflict, the war had a global reach and affected people's lives in ways that few could have foreseen. The turning point. America enters the conflict. As the conflict went on, it was clear that both sides were worn out. By 1917, Russia was going through its own crisis as internal upheavals were tearing apart the country's social framework. When Russia left the war due to the Bolshevik Revolution, Germany was free to focus its resources on the Western Front. However, the United States joined the conflict when it seemed like the Central Powers were prevailing. Although the United States originally remained neutral, public opinion began to turn against Germany as a result of ongoing provocations such as the Zimmermann telegram and the sinking of the Lusitania. The United States gave the faltering Allies more troops and supplies when it joined the war in April 1917. The final strike and the end of the war. As American troops began to arrive in greater numbers, the balance began to shift. The Allies began a series of offensives in reaction to the Central Powers' fatigue. By the end of 1918, things had significantly shifted, and with a weakened military and domestic unrest, Germany asked for an armistice. After more than 4 years of fighting, the war came to an end on November 11, 1918, when the guns finally fell quiet. The effects. A novel worldwide framework. The aftermath of World War I changed the world. The 1919 Treaty of Versailles resulted in harsh penalties for Germany, which left them feeling degraded for many years. New nations, boundaries, and wars arose when the Ottoman and Austro-Hungarian empires disintegrated, and some still exist today. The struggle had equally important social repercussions. After assuming jobs traditionally held by males, women began to seek equal rights and opportunities. Millions of people suffered, and new creative and literary communities emerged to depict the unpredictability and despair of the time. Reflections on the legacy World War I was a battle of armies, but it was also a battle of philosophies, power struggles, and human grit. The lessons gained from this battle influenced international relations, sparked revolutions, and paved the path for future battles like World War II. When we reflect on this momentous historical event, we are reminded that the consequences of a conflict this terrible persist for centuries. In what way may we know that the sacrifices were valuable? Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Additionally, remember to click the notification bell to get updates on our most recent videos.